finally here! It is finally here, and it could not have been better. Okay, I need to chill out a little bit. I need to take a step back, and I need to get my head straight before I get into this video. But yes, the day is finally here. We finally have Alan Wake 2. Now there is a whole lot I have to say about this game, and I will get to it all eventually, but everyone who's been sticking around the channel for a while would know just how excited I have been for this game, and after a long 13-year wait, is the almost all-around 9 out of 10 rated game worth it? Well, just sit back, hear me out within the next couple of videos, and I will answer all of your sweet questions. But now, I want to push this intro aside and get right into one of the best games I have played in a while. Wowee, am I excited to make this video, and boy oh boy is it, along with Alan Wake 2, far past due. But really quick before getting into everything, I have to explain a couple of things really quick. As you could probably tell, this video is different than usual. And of course, I will throw a timestamp up for you to skip if you just want to get to that good. I will go right into the first thing, that being the glaring part 1 in the title, and that is because yes, this is in fact a part 1 of a multiple video series. And honestly, I have a couple of reasons for that. Reason 1. As of writing this video, I have completed the story of Alan Wake 2, soaking in as much as I could, finding as many little details and enjoying every second of this masterpiece story. And really, there is just so much that I want to talk about that it would take absolutely forever to compile it all into one video. And the second reason is that it has only been 1 week since the game's release, and I don't want to go all bad milk on everyone. So with those reasons, I knew I just had to split the video up, waiting on giving the big spoilers until later, and giving myself some time to fully go through every single reason that I think this game is an absolute 10 out of 10. Yeah, I said it, but just wait for me to get more into that. And yeah, I know this is taking absolutely forever for me to just get to the point, but if you just waited out a little longer for a little itty bitty bit more of explanation, I will get to my favorite game of the year, and as I said, a full-on 10 out of 10 in my opinion, and a lot of others too. Back to what I was saying, this is a part 1 of a 3-part series, and in each part, I will focus on a few different topics relating to each other. Today, I will just say that it will be like the general first look video, as I bet a lot of you have not completed the game and I don't want to get too much into the story, rather mainly focusing on gameplay, graphics, performance, and if I saw any bugs. And within the next couple videos coming in the next couple weeks, I will fully get into the absolute golden story, the DLCs that are coming in the future, updates that we will see and have seen, my actual rating on the game, the connections that this game has to the other Remedy universes, the secrets I found around, and finally the Easter eggs. I'm out of breath. But if you just want to hear all of that, plus more, and really just my overall thoughts on Alan Wake 2, then you better stick around for the next couple weeks and get ready for some awesome videos. But I think I've explained enough. I think I've pulled this on, I've stretched it on as long as I need to be, and I just want to rip right into the game that I think could contend as Game of the Year. Okay, finally, we are here. Sorry for taking so freaking long just to get to the point, but it is time to actually get into the freaking game, and I could not be more excited. But really quickly, before we get into things, I just want to say that if you enjoyed this video and you want to see the rest in this 3-parter, be sure to hit that like and subscribe now. But moving right into the first topic of part 1, and that is going to be a quick recap of what Alan Wake 2 actually is, and why I've been so dang excited. As you can probably tell, I'm sounding like a kid on Christmas. But myself, along with all the other fans of Alan Wake, have been waiting a long 13 years for this game, being a direct sequel to not only Alan Wake, but also the AWE DLC in Control. We get to see Wake's descent through the dark place, along with his apparent return to Bright Falls in reality. At the same time, we get to see the events unfold of a string of ritualistic cult murders being investigated by FBI agents Saga Anderson and Alex Casey. As you get to play through 2 different stories, they slowly shift together and all the questions slowly begin to be answered. The game is actually split into 2 playable stories, giving you freedom of when to switch from one to the other. One story follows, of course, Wake, trying to get out of the dark place. The dark place actually taking form as a distorted and dark, grimy New York City. Within the dark place, you can uncover the secrets of Mr. Door, and mash and manipulate the manuscript to get Wake out of the dark place and stop Scratch from changing reality with his own story. Along with this, finally figure out the identity of Thomas Zane, his connection to Wake, and all the other little secrets the dark place has to offer. The other side of the story follows FBI agent Saga Anderson, once a resident of Bright Falls, unknown to herself, as she moves through different areas of Bright Falls and Watery with her partner Alex Casey, uncovering the secrets held within the Cult of the Tree, a cult who praises none other than Wake himself, or who some think is Wake, trying to get some sort of ritual in place. While she works her way to figuring out who the cult leaders are, trying to bring an end to the murders, she enters a whole new world of madness. She and her partner Casey actually find Wake, spat out of Cauldron Lake, the same place he went in 13 years before. After finding Wake though, things get quite weird, as they usually do with the strange writer. As things go with Wake in the manuscript, the world around Saga turns to a story, changing and manipulating around her, as her own life seems to be written in and seems to change with it. She learns about herself and her life that once was in Bright Falls, along with a special connection to some friends we already know. But I will get to all that later. And all the while, Scratch is making his way to the real world, and Saga and Wake have to work together to stop him before changing the whole story permanently. But I don't want to spoil any more of the actual story, as I will actually be going through the whole entire story in next week's video, fully breaking it down. So if you want to know more and want to know the full story, you will either have to pick up the game for yourself and enjoy it, or you will just have to wait for next Friday's video. Now, with all of that, one would ask, has it done well? Hell yes, it has done well. I mean, if you have been keeping up with Alan Wake 2, then you have probably seen all of the spectacular ratings this game has been getting from both critics and fans. Looking at the majority of reviewers, I rarely see anything under a 9 out of 10 or 4 out of 5, even seeing plenty 10 out of 10s and 5 out of 5s. IGN gave the game a 9 amazing. GameSpot and GamesRadar Plus both gave the game a 10 out of 10. And it got a 9 out of 10 on Windows Central, then an 89 for PS5, and a 96 for PC last time I checked on Metacritic. I mean, these are some amazing ratings, and I don't disagree with them a single bit. There are honestly such few games coming out today getting both critic and fan ratings this good, and I think Remedy, along with Sam Lake, really did something special here. Even if you weren't a fan of the first game, even if you don't know anything about it, I will bet money that you will enjoy this game. But really, there's not much else that comes with critic ratings other than the ratings, and even though I don't actually trust them normally, I will say that they got it right this time. But let's move on to how the game felt, looked, and performed. Okay, right, next to the gameplay. Now, I want to talk about the gameplay ranging from just how things felt and played all the way to the animations that came with interacting with things. I will start by saying, yeah, I did not get the full experience this game has to offer. This is a true next-gen game. Screw Can It Run Crisis, this is now Can It Run Alan Wake 2. All jokes aside, this is not an optimization issue. The game actually being pretty well optimized. It is just so graphically heavy, along with using mesh shaders instead of vertex, so it really pushes hardware. And contrary to some of your beliefs, I bet, I do not have the highest end PC, only rocking an 8GB 3050 for the time being. So even though my 11700 and 32 gigs of RAM might help, my GPU only lets me push around 45 to 50 frames in most places, raises and drops here and there. With that being said though, this game still plays so well, still feels smooth for that frame rate, and on the medium preset, it looks breathtaking. Some of the areas you can come across look straight out of Unreal Engine 5, I mean, just beautiful. I always say to be happy with your hardware, but this might be the game to make me upgrade, to squeeze all of the fidelity and performance out that I can. But I think that Northlight is just a great engine, and I think it was a great choice for using it for Alan Wake 2, along with Control. A lot of the time, it looks and feels similar to Unreal Engine 5, as I said before, and along with that, it played well to Remedy's advantage and even ours. I mean, we get a way more free and way more open game than the first, but with that, we have the game split up into areas, being able to keep the game reasonably performing. Plus, the engine makes the gunplay and animations all feel rather natural and really well done. And with Northlight, Remedy was able to give us some great environments and great atmospheres. The foggy forests are full of trees covered in moss, towering above the fogged and fern-littered pathways. The streets of the dark place are full of graffiti, neon lights shining all over cars and garbage, yet no one in those streets, only shadows of the taken. And the silence of it all, accompanied by the occasional branch snap or door hinge creak. Those things make it so much creepier when a trash can gets knocked over or a cultist jumps out from behind a tree. I just think that after playing Control and now Alan Wake 2, Northlight is a dang fine engine. But onto the movement, combat, interactions, and everything like that. I will first, right off the bat, say this game screams Resident Evil, especially the remakes. From the combat to the inventory management and even interacting with things around the world like getting bolt cutters to open doors and screwdrivers to get locks off and stuff like that, they all feel like Resident Evil in their own Remedy Wake twist. I have actually been playing Resident Evil 4 leading up to the release of Alan Wake 2, and I have to say, I think that Alan Wake 2 could possibly even be just as good as Resident Evil 4's remake. Don't come at me for that though. But if you enjoy Resident Evil, especially the remakes, I feel like that alone makes Alan Wake 2 a must-play for you. But all in all, it feels really nice. The guns pack a punch when they shoot, and they are pretty realistic in the animations and physics. Along with this, things look good when reloading and switching between your weapons, either pulling your rifle off your shoulder when you need it or putting a flashlight under your armpit when you need to reload. And one thing different to the usual Resident Evil gameplay are the different detective aspects that you get to engage in while playing as Saga, and even a little bit as Wake with writing the manuscript in the writer's room. But Saga has a space in her mind where she can actually travel to break down cases and put all the facts on a case board without ever needing anything physically or needing to write anything down. Wake has a similar zone while in the dark place, though it being the writer's room that we've seen so many times before. You have to return there to rewrite the manuscript, changing the story and environment around you. You can also return here to use what's called Words of Power to upgrade things like your weapons and health. And what is also great is that going from the world to these investigation places is seamless. For PC, you press tab and boom, you're in the mine place. Press it again, you're back in the dark woods of Bright Falls. And just with how much you will find yourself going into them, it is nice not to have a loading screen every single time. And speaking of seamless, while in the dark place, Alan can use the lamp to charge and drain lights, and the lights have an effect on the area it shines on. Maybe adding some light will add a door or something that wasn't there before, or maybe it will remove a water tower in your path when you take the light away. It is instant and even more seamless than changing to the mine place or the writer's room. And speaking of different areas and places, I want to move on to the different locations and playable maps that we see in the game, because this is just one of the other things that Remedy did a fantastic job with. The locations we have seen before have been recreated so freaking well in Alan Wake 2. The lively town of Bright Falls, along with the sheriff's station, look and feel exactly like the small town we once knew, even being 13 years later. Or the new locations we get to see, like Watery or the distorted version of New York that is the Dark Place. Each location is packed full of detail and little lore to uncover, whether it be files or just posters on the walls. I mean, Remedy gave us exactly what was, plus more. And the way you travel between the locations is quite well done also. As Saga, you would have to return to your car and drive to the different locations like Cauldron Lake or Bright Falls. You don't actually get to drive, but while driving, you get some awesome scenery of the Washington mountains and forests, along with some exposition on what Saga has learned or needs to do. If playing as Wake, you will walk through doors on the ground floor of buildings, ending up on rooftops of others, or using the manuscripts to write his own pathway to another location. Another thing I notice is this game has an almost Metrovania-esque style to how the game is navigated, having to backtrack to certain locations more than once and having to solve puzzles to make your way into other areas of the map, or even unlocking supply stashes and doors hiding secrets. But now moving on to something that a lot of people look past in games, and that is the audio and voice acting, which is just another thing that I think was a strong suit for the game. Now, yes, I did, as did many others, experience some bugs when it came to audio, but the bugs are another thing which I will get to in just a second. All of the little atmospheric noises though, along with sometimes creepy, sometimes intense, sometimes all around bizarre music, it all plays into the game really, really well. What was also nice to see was good voice acting, making the characters sound believable and like they could actually have emotions. The only thing that I found kind of funny, not anything negative at all, but after watching all the interviews and podcasts with Sam Lake, it was so freaking weird hearing Alex Casey speak for the first time. And in my opinion, his voice being as different as it could have been was just a little funny. And other than that, I think the audio as a whole was done well. Even Casey's voice, the voice actor for Casey, did a really good job, and everything added even another level of horror to the game. And speaking of horror, is Alan Wake 2 scary? Well, that just leads me into the next thing, and that is that Alan Wake 2 is so much scarier and so much gorier than the first Alan Wake game, even Control. Now, I will say that this might not be the scariest game ever. I mean, I watch a lot of very, very gruesome and horrific movies, and I play some pretty scary games, and I know this doesn't really compare to a lot of stuff I've seen and played, but compared to Alan Wake 1, this was a whole world of difference. I mean, the first Alan Wake game was T-rated. Then we get to Alan Wake 2, and within the first 5 minutes, we see straight dong swinging. But with the actual gore, it was done great. I mean, I would put the gore in Alan Wake somewhere in between Fallout 4 and Dead Island 2. Like, not absolutely perfect, but definitely better than most games out there. And going along with the added aspects of horror and the extreme amount of blood in comparison, Sam Lake was still able to give us a true horror experience from the all-out storytelling and evil vibes and looping, spiraling story. And then we get to what I would say was the most disturbing thing in this game, and that would be the death scenes as Wake. The screen distorts and flashes gruesome images of Wake dead on the ground, eyes wide, covered in blood. Just freaky stuff. The only thing I think compares to that is in the short film Nightless Nights that you can find, Alex Casey's death is very gruesome, and I think Sam Lake, all of the little short movies Sam Lake did in this game were absolutely breathtaking and way over the top. He did way more than he had to do. Remedy did way more than they had to do, and this game, oh my gosh. Back to what I was saying though. To answer the question in a short, if you like horror and gore, this game is perfect for you. And for just a couple of side random things that I thought were a really nice touch, but there are a bunch of small details added to make things feel a little more real and a little more alive. For example, the things like different TV ads you can find scattered about, or how water jugs will sometimes bubble up, either adding to the silent atmosphere or even adding to the realism. And on to my favorite mini detail of all, and that is as the days change, the different waitresses in the diner change too, along with the patrons at the booths and bar. I don't know, the small things like that make the game so much better to me, because it means the developers cared enough to put those tiny little things in for the few of us that would notice. Though really, I think that's all I have for graphics, gameplay, along with a little bit of the audio. Now though, I want to talk about the performance of the game, along with a couple of bugs and issues that I myself have found before wrapping this video up. Okay, so yeah, I did touch on it a little bit before, but I just want to say again, I may not be the one to be talking about performance, but I'm going to anyways. Looking back to the weeks leading up to the game's release, I remember when the system requirements were released and people went wild. Though, from my own experience and others, the game actually performs really well and a lot better than a lot of those people expected. Sure, I got around 45 frames as the average, with around 60 in the dark place, and even around 60 to 75 in closed off areas, but I am rocking some of the more mid-range hardware. Though the reason that the game has such high GPU specs is actually because the game uses mesh textures instead of vertex. And honestly, what I have to say about that, along with people being quite upset about their 10 series cards not being supported, is that we're entering the future, and those cards are almost 10 years old. I mean, we didn't really expect this game to come to PS4, so how is this really any different? I digress. I do know it sucks with the game being one of the first to fully move into the future, but honestly, it will be for the best, and I feel like they are doing a little bit of future-proofing at the same time as giving us a perfectly playable and even better experience on the hardware we have gotten in the past couple years. And as I said I would return to, the audio. Now the sounds and voices are great, don't get me wrong, but there are a few audio bugs that a lot of people have been experiencing throughout the different platforms, myself included. Sometimes the audio would just not sync up, or maybe it would just full on cut out and go silent during cutscenes, and this was pretty annoying, but really, for me, it happened rarely, and why else do I have subtitles on, right? Just kidding, but on to the next bug, which seemed to be pretty widespread as well, and that was a strange shimmering issue in most areas, where everything looked like a bad reflection or looked like gold almost. The only thing that I found that could fix this issue was turning on path tracing. I know it's the future, but path tracing has still got a bit to be necessary, right? We just got around to making RTX pretty general. On to the last thing I want to talk about in the bugs in performance, and that is the crashing. I did not have many crashes at all in the beginning, though I will admit that it started to get bad. Suddenly, every time I would try to play the game, it would crash only a few minutes in. I tried and tried again without success, though eventually taking a break and returning a couple hours later to find the issue somewhat fixed. And that happened a couple of different times. Though, these are all small things in the long run, and most likely to be fixed in future updates. I mean, we already got an update the day of writing this, and it seems to already smooth things up a little bit. Still a good amount of shimmer though. But when looking at the game as a whole, everything was pretty dang smooth, and there was nothing game-breaking in the department of bugs. And that is that with that. Seriously though, I think that this is enough on that topic, and with that comes the end of this video and part 1 of my Alan Wake 2 series. But just because this video is over does not mean I am done talking about Alan Wake 2. I've been absolutely loving Alan Wake 2 and already think it could be one of my favorite horror games, along with contending with possibly Game of the Year. That is why I think if the footage looks good to you and you like what you're seeing, you like what I'm explaining, then you should not wait and you should get yourself a copy now. It's only $50. It might be digital only, but it's on every console. It's only $50 and it's so good, it's so worth it. And definitely tune in next week to see the next part in this little 3-part series where I will be going fully in-depth into the story, explaining exactly what's going on in Bright Falls and the Dark Place, along with talking about some of the upcoming DLCs and updates that have been announced. And finally, that video will have my personal rating on the game. So if you want to see any of that, then don't miss out and tune in next Friday. And really, I think part 1 has served its duties, so I will just wrap everything up there. As always, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you stick around for the rest. And if you want to let me know your thoughts on Alan Wake 2 or this series, then definitely throw any of your thoughts in the comments now. If you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and hit it with a like, and never hesitate to head down and hit that little red button down there to stay up to date on everything to come, especially parts 2 and 3. And if you want to support the channel and more videos like this, go ahead and check out a membership to either my YouTube or my Patreon now to support the channel, get updates on everything to come, and get your name at the end of every single video. Do not feel pressured though, as all the likes, comments, subs are plenty, and I thank you all for that already. And lastly, if you heard any music that you enjoyed and you want to hear more of, check out billythewhip.com or just Billy the Whip on any music platform now. And as we are here, I hope all of you have the absolute best day ever, and I can't wait to see you all in part 2.
God, this community is overreacting.
It's not a loop. It's a spiral.